Incoming into the Russia-Ukraine war is a mysterious new weapon that's been announced by the United States. It's called Phoenix Ghost, and not very much is actually known about it, except that this is a drone, it's a suicide system, and it will soon be in Ukraine's hands. Just listen to the name of that system, Phoenix Ghost. What do we know about it? Take a look. In 2 months of war, one of Ukraine's key weapons against the invading forces has been its fleet of combat drones. In video after video, Ukraine has demonstrated drone application to lethal effect, from destroying Russian tanks and vehicles to even allegedly distracting Russia's giant cruiser Moskva so it could be targeted from another direction with anti-ship missiles. And now, Ukraine is all set to receive a mysterious new combat drone. The United States has just announced the supply of a newly developed attack drone specifically customized and fine-tuned for the Ukrainian military. The mystery drone, designated Phoenix Ghost, has been developed by the California-based Avex Aerospace with direct inputs from the Ukrainian military. While no images exist of the Phoenix Ghost, it is said to be a derivative of the switchblade drone system that's already being supplied to Kyiv. The precise details of the drone remain unclear, but it will be a huge addition to Ukraine's aerial defenses against Russian assaults.
This is a drone that had been in development before the invasion, clearly. The Air Force was working this. This unmanned aerial system is designed for tactical operations. In other words, largely but not exclusively to attack targets.
Designed to attack, the mysterious Phoenix Ghost will have similar capabilities with the AeroVironment Switchblade. The Phoenix Ghost drone will be able to hover over an area for up to 30 to 40 minutes hunting for targets. Drone operators on the ground will be able to hit targets with a small warhead at a range of up to 10 kilometers. This mysterious new drone can take off vertically, fly for over 6 hours searching for and tracking targets, and operate at night using infrared sensors. The new weapon, headed to Ukraine's arsenal, would be able to take on Russian medium-armored ground targets. The deadly Phoenix Ghost drones can also be reused for surveillance missions if they're not employed as kinetic weapons against Russian forces. The US has already fast-tracked production efforts to arm Ukraine with the Phoenix Ghost.
This particular system would very nicely suit their needs, particularly in eastern Ukraine.
These drones are part of a larger $800 million security assistance package announced by the White House. The package also includes 72 155mm howitzers, over 1.4 lakh artillery rounds, field equipment, armored vehicles, other tactical drones, anti-tank guided missiles, counter battery and air defense radars, helicopters, and a whole lot more. As the conflict rages on, the US military is tailoring capabilities in each defense assistance package to what the Ukrainian forces need in the field. The next phase will feature the mysterious Phoenix Ghost. Bureau Report, India Today. Now, you've heard quite a lot about loitering munitions and kamikaze drones, a fair bit during this entire conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Let's just tell you how these systems actually work. Now, these are tube-launched systems that we're talking about, including the Phoenix Ghost and the drone that it's supposed to be based on, which is called the Switchblade. It basically involves an infantryman launching this drone from a small little tube. It's highly portable. This drone then takes off, it flies, it has both a warhead as well as a sensor. That's the reason why it both hunts as well as attacks. It can either be programmed to do so, It can relay that video back to the human operator on the ground. It can be programmed to be autonomously in hunt mode for a particular target. Once it reaches the area where the target is, it can loiter. That's why it's called a loitering munition. It can look for that target, stay in the air, wait for an optimal time, and then dive out of the sky and hit that particular target. That's why it's called a suicide drone. It's a drone that has cameras and sensors to detect the target, and then when the time is right, dive out of the sky and actually kill that target. So that's what kamikaze drones are all about. We don't know very much about the Phoenix Ghost drone that the United States has just announced as part of an $800 million package, but it seems to be pretty incredible because these drones, the US says, have been tailor-made for the Ukrainian military. They've taken inputs from the Ukrainian military and then applied them to some kind of ready-made unmanned aerial system already and are providing it as is to the Ukrainians. So in many ways, this weapon will be used for the first time in the Ukraine war. Joining me live, a person who perhaps knows more about drone tech in the military context than anybody else here in India, Sameer Joshi. He's an aerospace defense expert and also the chief of Newspace Technologies, which is a defense startup that does a lot of pioneering work in the field of drone technology as well as artificial intelligence. Also with me live from Kyiv, Ukraine, is Rajesh Pawar. He's a special forces veteran. He knows all about drone warfare, and he's been looking firsthand at what's happening in Ukraine at this point of time. Sameer, welcome. Rajesh, welcome. Sameer, to you first. I'm sure, given how you devour all the information coming out of Ukraine and, the supplies of new weaponry, Sameer, you've been hearing about these Phoenix Ghost drones, which the Pentagon announced yesterday were tailor-made, custom-built for the Ukrainians. One view is that this is a derivative of the existing switchblade drones which are being supplied. What do you think this is, Sameer? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you think the Phoenix Ghost is? There is so much conjecture.
Yeah. Hi, Shiv. So, of course, Phoenix Ghost is the latest entry of one of the plethora of suicide and kamikaze drones which we are seeing coming up in Ukraine. We first heard about this sometime around March 4th when one of the reports mentioned that Ukrainians were giving a feedback for a system which could be tailor-made for their requirements. Now, this is very interesting simply because, we knew by that time that the Americans would be taking a call to send across their switchblade series, which is again a tube-launched loiter munition and which has the kamikaze function. So what is it that it is different from the switchblade, the Ghost in context? So what I perceive that Ghost is a tactical unmanned aerial system, meaning that it will not only be idle for surveillance use, but can also be used for striking Russian troops and military equipment from the air. This is very clear to us. Now, the second aspect is the Switchblade, which is being supplied in two versions, the Switchblade 300, which is the smaller version and likely used by tactical troops, and the Switchblade 600, which also has an anti-tank warhead for a top attack function. What is it that the Ukrainians need beyond this? I think the feedback from Ukraine and whatever they could grasp in the first couple of weeks was we need something which we can react to much faster. We need something which may have a lot of different kind of warheads, but more specific to how they can be utilized in the Ukrainian environment. So that is the feedback which would have gone, and a derivative of the Ghost specifically being designed for Ukraine will come out.
It's very interesting.
This is where it will differentiate from the standard Switchblade system. The Ghost is there. It's something like the Switchblade. It is something which should worry the Russians very much, especially in the eastern offensive that they are right now engaged in. And it will work in tandem with, the set of loiter munitions which the Ukrainians are fielding out there. Yes.
Pretty incredible also to see how quickly development work and customization work has been able to turn out this tailor-made system for the Ukrainians. Obviously, it can't be an entirely new system, but an existing system being customized with inputs from an active battlefield to provide this new weapon is a separate story in itself, and we'll discuss that later. But Rajesh, like Sameer was saying, it's the latest entrant into a pretty high-tech battlefield already. We've already seen the extensive use of drones, both surveillance drones as well as these suicide munitions. And now this Phoenix Ghost, which is, it's a very mysterious name also. Not many people know too much about it. But Samir says it's going to add to that mix and will be more advanced because it really takes inputs directly from the battlefield. So in many ways, this is what the Ukrainians have been specifically asking for.
Very true, Shiv. But let me tell you, it is very similar to switchblade drones, which have been extensively used by the Ukrainians against Russian armor. They have been basically using these drones for top attack against Russian armor, be it armored personnel carriers, be it tanks. So these Phoenix Ghost, what I have learned about it is they're very similar to switchblades, except for one difference, that the person who's firing these drones is much easier to learn how to fire and use it compared to switchblades. So this is one reason Ukrainians wanted it, and that's why Americans calling it customized to Ukraine's needs, because most of the troops of Ukraine, which are deployed in the field now against Russian forces, have not got any sort of training on any of these drones. So these drones, the Phoenix Ghost drones, are much easier to use than a switchblade, but they are more or less similar in other specifications. Shiv.
Very interesting. I wanted to ask Samir about that because, he's worked with the military as well. Samir, what kind of learning curve are we talking about? How long would it take, the forces to actually get experience on using drones of this kind, either the Switchblade or the Phoenix? Because clearly, as Rajesh says, one of the inputs from the field is we need to lessen the amount of time taken to get working with these drones.
Yeah. So there is always a learning curve, Shiv, especially for a drone of the class of Switchblade. It comes from a very top of line, hierarchy back in the US. It starts right from transportation of such drones to the tactical battlefield, setting it up, quick launch, thereafter monitoring, engaging a target or disengaging or whatever way you look at it. So, one of the major reasons, one of the feedback from Ukraine is they want something which they can fire and scoot very fast. What we have seen generally that with the Switchblade 300, what videos are available are largely that you have to set it up to a great extent. It takes time. And when you launch, you kind of take it around. So that is one of the feedback. I think Rajesh makes a very important point there. Quick launch is a basic requirement in the TBA. Second aspect is once in air, one should not use too much of time looking for the target. The drone should have full autonomy in this aspect, loiters over a certain period of time, and once it picks up, with the human on the loop, he can kind of tag the target and the terminal attack trajectory can happen. This, if at all, is going to be simpler, then this makes the task very, very simple. As I said, specifically Ukrainians would have requested a kind of training regimen for the same. And this, compared to the Switchblade, if it offers these advantages, it will make a huge difference from picking up a target to the engagement zone.
Very interesting. And Rajesh, one final question to you. The suicide drones already in operation, along with the drones that fire the weapons, have been inflicting quite a bit of damage on the Russian side, haven't they? So, the entry of an even more higher tech weapon of this kind is going to be something that the Russians are going to sit up and wonder about very, very closely, because they've got combat activity in the east, and this could prove to be quite a day spoiler for them.
Very true, Shiv. As you see that when we heard about this large column of Russian armor north of Kyiv, one of the biggest reasons which Ukrainians are giving why Russians withdrew was because their supply lines were badly disrupted. A lot of their armor was destroyed. And as we discussed about a month back, Shiv, when switchblades were introduced into the battlefield, they were a game changer. And it was a lot of defeat of Russian armor is attributed to introduction of switchblades into the battlefield. Now with this new drones coming, this is also a kind of suicide drone, just like switchblades, and they can loiter over the target, even can direct other ammunition onto the target. So this is the quality they have. And let me give you an additional information in this regard.
Yes.
That today, in fact, yesterday evening, one AN-25 of Ukrainian Air Force has been shot down by the Russians, which probably was carrying some kind of military hardware. which has been supplied by NATO to Ukrainian forces. Shiv.
This is a live situation. It's a very dynamic situation. Many things are open-ended in terms of discussions, but it's really good to have voices like Samir and Rajesh to help us understand some of the many moving parts of what's going on in this conflict. Thank you very much, Samir and Rajesh. Appreciate your time on this otherwise pretty complicated story. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Unmanned aerial vehicles or drones can be lethal in warfare, as has been demonstrated over the last 2 months, because of their ability to watch from the air, that amazing ability to watch from above, precise attack operations, faster speed. But now the Phoenix Ghost that's entering the mix, which is being sent to the Ukraine, tailor-made by the US, is similar, like Rajesh and Samir were saying, to something called the switchblade, which has already entered the combat mix in Ukraine. Take a look at what this is, and it'll give you an idea of what the Phoenix Ghost will be actually better at.
Ukraine using its missiles and drones given by the West to make the war more equal, taking out Russian jets, choppers and tanks with devastating ferocity. Ukraine's fabled bayraktar drones have been immensely helpful for embattled Kyiv, proving to be the Brahmastra in its arsenal. And now there's a massive leg up for Ukraine, as Pentagon plans to gift it 10 of the newest switchblade drones with the reputation of the most potent tank killers. Under a $300 million aid to Ukraine, the tank-buster drones work in kamikaze fashion, plunging at the target after waiting stealthily. The swift suicide dive ends in complete destruction of the target. The Switchblade 600 drone, weighing 24 kgs, is designed specifically to attack tanks flying distances up to 40 kilometers, loitering over a target for about 40 minutes. They can also use warheads meant for Javelin missiles. The small drones, made by AeroVironment ammunition major carrying warhead, detonates on impact. As officials call it, the flying shotgun. The early version of these dive-bombing drones was secretly sent to Afghanistan in 2010 to fight the Taliban. The US says the Switchblade 600s are a higher level of technology that provides Ukraine additional capacity to go after Russian armor formations.
We've already sent in 100 Switchblade UAVs that were already in our stocks. We sent them in from those stocks. I don't know where they are in the transshipment process, but they arrived over the earlier this week. So they'll be getting into Ukraine quickly if they aren't already there. That's the 100 that President Biden announced a couple of weeks ago.
In the initial days of the war, remember, Ukraine used the deadly bayraktar, Turkish drones, to take down Russian artillery and missile units. These are not suicide drones. These are drones that stay in the air but are armed with laser-guided missiles and bombs that they fire at their targets. And these drones have been used to lethal effect for over 2 months now. Take a look.
Perhaps the most compelling aerial image of Ukraine's counter-strike on its invaders. Look carefully at these infrared images. What you're looking at is a Russian missile position being struck from the skies by a Ukrainian drone. The drone said to be raining this hell on Russian forces is the Bayraktar TB2, a combat drone fleet supplied by Turkey in 2019. These drones carry 4 laser-guided missiles that have proven highly effective in combat. The TB2 has a flight time of 24 hours and a communication range of almost 185 miles, with a service altitude ceiling of roughly 25,000 feet. Additionally, some of these drones create a disturbing sound when approaching their targets, which can be psychologically unsettling. The chief of Ukraine's Air Force, Lieutenant General Mykola Oleshchuk, describes the Bayraktar TB2 drones as life-giving. Each Bayraktar TB2 system consists of 6 aerial vehicles, 2 ground control stations, 3 ground data terminals, 2 remote video terminals, and ground support equipment. Bayraktar TB2 UAV can carry a maximum payload of more than 55 kilos. The standard payload configuration includes an electro-optical camera module, an infrared camera module, a laser designator, a laser range finder, and a laser pointer. Ukraine is the latest instance of these formidable attack drones in action. Bayraktar TB2 drones were heavily effective for Azerbaijan against Armenia in November 2002, as testified by multiple videos that emerged at that time. A precursor to this was the success of the TB2 drones against Russian-made weapons in Syria and Libya. Key aspects like low visibility and detectability thanks to the low radar cross-section makes this drone slick and agile. It is interesting to note that earlier this year, Turkey and Ukraine had an agreement in place to co-produce Bayraktar TB2 drones at a production site in Ukraine. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov told reporters in Kiev that the co-production compound would also include a training center where Ukrainian pilots would be trained. This had caused a lot of resentment and anger amongst the Russian defense establishment back then. And with the drones striking Russian targets once again now, expect things to escalate further from the air. With Sai Kiran Kannan in Singapore, Bureau Report, India Today.
Russia is a country with a pretty advanced military as well, so they're not just sitting by and watching all this high-tech weaponry flood Ukraine against them. Russia too is adopting new tactics. Videos from Ukraine have confirmed Russia's deployment of their own suicide drones against Ukrainian targets. Unmanned, self-destructing attack drones designed to slip under radar of traditional air defense systems. There is one view that the Russians have not been as successful as the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainians have NATO-supplied advanced weaponry, which is said to be superior to what the Russians have made. Take a look at this report. It answers some of those questions.
Ukraine standing up to Moscow's offensive despite weeks of ravaging assault, showing unparalleled courage and spirit rarely seen in recent times. Showing it can be a match to Moscow's superior military might and far sophisticated weaponry, but Russia on its part has been using stealthy suicide drones to attack the Ukrainian army. These unmanned drones, evading radar and traditional air defense system, can slip past enemy line of fire. This devil in the sky is lethal, using loitering munitions which wait passively in the air, hovering over the target before coming down in one deathly swoop. The drone falls head first along a vertical trajectory similar to kamikazes, a Japanese aircraft loaded with explosives, and making a deliberate suicidal crash on an enemy target. Russia is using these drones to make precision attacks on military targets in Ukraine. Each of them packs a small explosive charge up to 3 kgs. Targets are fed into the drone or through an image uploaded on its control system. The drone then finds its target and drops itself to blow the target into smithereens. These loitering munition drones are multi-purpose and used as part of a swarm of drones, flying silently as fast as 130 km/h with a flight duration of 30 minutes. To counter Russian depth drones, the US is now supplying Ukraine with switchblade drones, which works in similar kamikaze fashion. The small drones made by AeroVironment Ammunition Major carrying warhead detonate on impact. Bureau Report, India Today.
And even as this drone duel continues between Russia and Ukraine, remember, there's a whole other kind of muscle flexing going on. We're leaving you with these images as we go into this break of the Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile system that has been tested right in the middle of this war and all these tensions by Russia. Mesmerizing images of that missile test coming out from Russia, even as 2 months of this conflict is marked.